Hi and welcome. My name is Arwen Brooke, and today we're going to do a Pilates class that includes a few props. We're going to use a Theraband and a Gertie Ball. Both can be replaced by household items. You can use a cushion or pillow for the Gertie Ball, and you can use a belt or a strap for the Theraband, and you can also do the entire class without either if you'd like to, okay? We're going to work our core, we're going to work our hips, we're going to work our shoulders, and we're going to begin standing, and you're going to have both props in your hands. Okay? We're going to start with our Theraband in our hands and our Gertie Ball between our inner thighs. This offers us just a little bit of something to engage into with our inner thighs. If you didn't have a Gertie Ball, it would not really, diminish the value of what we're going to do. It just is an experience that feels usually pretty engaging. So we're just going to start with our feet in parallel underneath our sit bones, but let the ball kind of dictate how wide your feet are. If it's really inflated, you might not get them as close together as you normally do. You don't want to force that. So you just want to be able to feel a little bit of a squeeze on the ball without altering the alignment of your legs. And then let the hands find the band a little bit wider than shoulder width apart. And we'll take a few sort of easeful circles of the arms around the shoulder joints. And you're invited right off the bat to just be breathing naturally, however your shoulders and breath kind of find a rhythm. If it's an inhale up and an exhale back, or if you are sort of just breathing a full inhale to the first rep and then a full exhale on the second, that's also just fine. So you're just allowing everything to kind of happen as it wants to. And then we're going to bring the band to the top of the arc. We're going to soften the knees. And then I want you to draw the left hand down by your side and let the right arm be stretched overhead and pull you into a side bend for that right side to stretch. With your knees soft, you're going to find it a little easier to curl the tail under, reaching your tail towards the front of your mat and your sit bones under as well. And then release the tail, come back to the top. Draw your right arm down. Let your left side stretch. Slide the tail under, draw the abdominals back. And then unwind and come back up. This time we're going to go to the left, curl the tail under and keep the tail curled under as we swing that right arm forward, round through the spine, almost as if you're arriving in a cat stretch. Keep going over to the right and then come to the top, release the tail. We go the same movement the other direction, going over to the right, curl the tail under, round, bring the top arm forward, circling, swiveling the shoulders, and then arriving at the top, release the tail. Your knees are still soft. Going again, over to the left, curl the tail under, draw the ribs back, stretch, and up. One more time. Side bend, breathe, draw the tail under, circle the arms, open the chest, and arrive at the top. Okay, and then we're going to lower the arms and let the Theraband hang now from our hands, kind of like you're holding a jump rope. So you're going to hold just the ends of the band, and then you're going to set the middle of the band on the mat and step into it with your feet still in that alignment you've already set up that is close to hip distance apart. And then the Theraband should create some resistance for your shoulders as they shrug up towards your ears and then back down. If you'd like it a little heavier, you might choose to wrap your hands in a band. For this one, a scarf and a belt are not going to work, but if you just went without, you could just go ahead and shrug the shoulders, and that's really positive. And if you want some resistance, you can just hold two matching objects in your hands, a pair of soup cans or free weights if you have them, and down. We don't want super heavy, so you don't need much at all. And then we're going to start to shrug the shoulders around and back. They'll come forward on the way up, back, and down. And we'll do that about 6 or so times, maybe a few more, warming up all the muscles of the shoulder, including the muscles at the top and the neck that kind of get a little bit tight and activated more often than perhaps we'd like. So we're going to just try to engage those and then soften them down and repeat up as you let the shoulders come down and back. See if you can feel the melting of your upper shoulder muscles into a nice easeful place. We're going to hold there, and then we're going to take our arms forward as we fold the hips and knees and then reset back at the top. The Theraband doesn't need to come very, you don't need to stretch it a lot. You don't need to lift the arms very high. We're just going into the tension and feeling some opposition as your hips come back, your hands float forward. Good. I'm going to turn so we can have a side view. And again, we're going to come down and hold and see if you can draw the shoulders down and back a little bit more. Squeeze into your ball. And then from here, we're going to go into bicep curls. Bend the elbows and release. And see if you can feel your engagement into the ball. Deepen your engagement into your core, your low abdominals, drawing in and up. And then feel your bottom ribs sort of slide back away from your thighs a little bit. One more. And then lengthen the arms and stand up tall. Next up is triceps. You're going to take your arms back as you squat. Squeeze the ball, reach the arms behind you. And then rise back up. And returning to the top. Two more. And one more. As you come down, hold this next one. Stay there again. Squeeze the ball. Roll the shoulders back. Pull your bottom ribs in. And then you're going to bend and straighten the arms. Keep the elbows back. Work towards really lengthening the arms. If you're like me, if you aren't paying close attention, your arms will kind of stop before they're fully straight. So see if you can really go the full distance. Lengthen your biceps. See if you can stretch your biceps out fully. Two more. One more. And then lengthen and rise up. Okay, we're going to step out of there and then take the band to the mat, and we're going to move let's stay in the center. I'm going to use the sides of the mat. So we're going to go ahead and just come right down onto our knees. You're going to set the ball out of the way, and then we're going to use the Theraband. In fact, let's do this. You're going to take the Theraband around to the back of your rib cage. So it's kind of down low, below your shoulder blades. The ball can go between your knees again. I'm changing the order of things is why I'm jumping around from prop to prop. What I want to do next is feel into your back body a little bit. We're going to play with that some more in class, as we have been over the past many weeks. So you're going to start with your Theraband in your hands with your elbows bent and a little bit of tension on the strap. And so from here, you're just going to start to breathe into this feeling you have of connection with the band. So it gives you a tactile experience that you can feel, and then start to fill up the lungs in such a way that you feel the pressure increase into the band. And then for those of you with stretchy bands, you can exhale and stretch the arms out to straight. If you have something like a belt or a scarf, you can just reach and hold, or keep the elbows bent and hold, but put tension into the strap or band and pull the ribs back in opposition. So it's an equal and opposite force. As your ribs glide back into the band, your arms reach forward equally. There's balance achieved right there in that moment. And last two. And last one. Hold there, breathe in. On the exhale, you're going to move the ribs back even more to initiate a flexi spine, a roll down of sorts towards the mat. We're not going to go all the way down. Breathe in here on the exhale, reverse, draw the ribs back, and then the shoulders back, and the head to the top of your spine. And again, feel the ribs move back. The hands continue to stretch forward as the ribs draw back, creating that balance of opposites. Squeeze the ball, breathe in, and exhale. Ribs come back, shoulders come back, and head is last. One more time, reaching the arms forward, ribs back, initiating that movement through your spine. So basically we're practicing the upper abdominal curl or a roll up here, just in a different position in relation to gravity. Breathe in at the bottom, fill up those back lungs, Exhale, reach into the arms, draw the ribs back, and arrive nice and tall. And then open the arms and release. You're gonna keep the band. Now we're gonna ditch the ball. I'm still facing the side. We're gonna take our right leg out to the side. Holding the band again at about shoulder width, we're gonna reach the arms up to the sky and then draw that right hand down towards that straightened leg and then come all the way back up. And repeat. And up and over. You doing okay, Kathy? Is it grabbing on the glute med, a little crampy? So it is going to activate there. If that's what it is, I can relate, and you'll be invited to stop if it doesn't feel good, or give it a minute, it might work itself out. And then come all the way up to the top. We're going to bend the left knee, or right knee, excuse me, and turn the toes out so that the knee is open straight out to the right. And then we're going to take our right hand down towards the inside of that right foot. The top arm is allowed to stretch overhead. And then come all the way back up. And again, landing maybe the hand down, maybe not. And all the way back up. One more time. From here, if it's contact you have at the mat, that's great. If not, you can be a little bit higher. We're going to take the top arm and turn it down towards the mat, turn your shoulders, and then reach the arm up and back and let your gaze and heart turn towards the sky. And then turn down and open up. Press your knee and your arm into one another as they connect here. And then we'll unwind and come all the way up. And then let's turn towards that bent knee. So you're going to swivel your head and shoulders and circle the arms around behind you as you lunge a little bit forward towards your right toes. Moving away from that left inner thigh. And then come back, arms overhead into the front. And then circle the arms back as you lunge forward again over those right toes. And then come back. And one more time. And then we'll come all the way back to the start. And then draw your right knee in. Second side, so your left leg is going to stretch out long. And then your arms are going to stretch up to the sky. And we side bend over to the left and come back up. And again, lengthening that side body, giving the whole right side from knee to hand a big stretch. And then come back in and up. Now we're going to step the left foot into a turnout with the thigh flush with the mat, the long edge of the mat. And then from here, we're going to take the left hand down towards the mat to the inside of that left foot and then come on back up. So you're getting a nice stretch to that right side body and left inner thigh. Yeah? And come on up. One more time, drawing down. And then we're going to turn. Let the top arm rotate towards the mat. The strap might go slack. And then turn and open away. And again, you could be doing all of this without the resistance band. And turn and open. And coming back towards center. And then all the way up. We're going to turn the head and shoulders towards our left knee. And then we're going to lunge forward or towards those left toes as we circle the arms back. And then bring the arms forward. And two more like that. So this little drift to the left. And back. And again. And to the top. Coming all the way in. We'll bring the knees back together. So let's set the band aside now and turn towards the top of your mat. And we're going to position our Gertie ball here at our chest or our rib cage, so just below the sternum. And then you're going to lower yourself down, your torso forward over your thighs, and let your arms stretch out overhead. Since we have a ball or a cushion between our thighs and our ribs, you might not be able to make contact with the mat with your forehead, so you can place anything you have handy underneath your forehead if you feel any strain in your neck. If there's no strain, you're fine to just relax there. And then start breathing consciously. Each inhale is doing this powerful work of expanding and stretching tightness around this mid-back. And we've been talking about this region for a while, and I just want to highlight again why it's important. We're talking about this point in your body that's really the epicenter of all your movement. So if it's not strong, and if it's not flexible, and if it's not organized and in a good position, then everything else is kind of a little bit out of alignment as well. So we're trying to bring our body into a good alignment, eliminating some of the tightnesses that hold us out of good alignment through some thoughtful breathing. Your diaphragm attaches to your spine right about here, as does your psoas on the front side, as does your lower trapezius on the back. A bunch of really important connections kind of meeting in the middle here. And so what I hope you're feeling is some of that movement in the back ribs. We're going to look for it in our abdominal work in a little bit, so just let this be a nice little pause before the challenge gets really intense. And then we're just going to slide the hands in towards the knees, roll up to kneeling. From here, let's take the ball between the knees once again, and take the Theraband around the back of the ribs. And we'll just set up like we did kneeling a moment ago, but this time we're going to take that into our all fours position. So find the position where your ribs are feeling the contact of the band, the low ribs in the back, and then draw your ribs into the band. As you exhale, stretch the arms out to straight. Check that that feels right, and then we're going to take that same exhale to round forward, bring the ribs back into the band. Hopefully you feel like that's even making more meaningful sense after lying on that ball for a few moments. And we're going to take the hands all the way down to the mat. Take your time, reset. We want the Theraband kind of pinned under the heel of the hand. And that's just if you're using the band. And then you're going to set up in your all fours position. And then with that set up, you're going to stretch the spine long, head and tail reaching out, and just practice movement in both directions. The cat stretch is going to really be familiar, lifting up from underneath your bottom ribs, stretching the band, but feel the opposition of the arms pushing down through the heel of the hands to make that more meaningful. You'll feel the balance of power giving you even more stability. And then reach your sit bones back, bring your heart forward, and then just notice that here we had the option to sink and let that band go slack, but we're not allowing that. We're pushing down through the floor still as we keep our ribs in contact with that band, powerfully stretching the abdominals. And then lifting again from underneath, stretching here. Now we stretch the back body, and then heart forward, tail up and back. We stretch the front body. Those abdominals are stretching. And then come to neutral and see if you can feel your neutral as a place that, again, does not allow those bottom ribs to sink as I'm demonstrating. There's a real lift there without rounding. So in neutral, you're going to combine the lift of the bottom ribs with this openness and forward energy in the heart. So then from there, we're going to take the toes tucked under, and we're going to hover the knees off the mat, and at the same time, keep lifting those bottom ribs. The lift of the bottom ribs shouldn't round your spine, but rather just keep you really connected through your upper abdominals as you reach the sit bones back, the heart forward. And we're going to hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Land the knees down. Take a chest forward, tail up and back, and then a cat stretch round. And then we'll take another neutral spine, toes tucked under, breathe into the back ribs. Exhale, hover the ribs and the knees. Push the floor away. Feel the meeting of the two opposites, ribs and arms. 3, 2, 1. Lower down. Reach the chest forward. and then round the spine up. We're going to do that one more time, and stretch out. Hover the ribs up, tuck the toes under, lift the ribs to lift the knees, but make sure your pelvis isn't tucked. Reach the sit bones back, hover the ribs in and up, and 3, 2, 1. Go ahead and lower the knees down, rest your hips back towards your heels. We're going to take the Gertie ball out from between the thighs, and then just take the arms through a few more of these luscious, yummy circles. Good. Saying thank you to those strong shoulders for supporting you and working so hard. So now we're going to take the band and set it aside, and then come to seated. And let's place the ball, actually let's lower all the way down onto the back and place the Gertie ball underneath your pelvis. So you're going to come into a bridge just to get it into position underneath your sacrum, and then you're going to let your shoulders fall open into the mat. And then from here, we're looking for the pelvis to start relatively neutral and feel that space under the back body, allowing our ribs to kind of move into it. So you're going to take a few breaths, letting that inhale stretch out the back of the ribs. You're still going to perceive movement in the front, but by bringing your attention to it, you can limit how much you sort of open and expand in the front of the ribs and get a little bit more purposeful in how you expand into the back ribs. And we're just, again, similar to the ball on the thighs, letting gravity kind of help us to release tension around the mid-back and even into the low back. And then we're going to float one leg in a tabletop and then the other. So by holding both knees up, our balance just got a lot more unstable, and that works all of this a fair bit more. So you're going to tip the pelvis a little bit more towards 12 o'clock, giving your low waist a little bit of a lower position. So your pelvis is tilted and your tail is a little lifted. And then from there, we're going to go into these just little easeful but core warming knee floats, toe taps, and practice keeping those shoulders open. And drawing the abdominals in on each exhale. And then let's take the knees back into our chest. Let the low back sink towards the mat and just round into a nice sort of heavy place. And then from here, we're going to lower the feet down, and we're going to move the ball so that it's under the pelvis still, but barely. So it's just under your tailbone. And then you'll feel it when you take your feet off the mat. What we want is to have full contact with the low back, and this little wedge from the ball just barely kind of underneath us. It'll feel almost as though it's going to, shoot out from under you. And that's when you're there, you're pretty much exactly where we want to be. So it's creating a little lift to our tail and a sinking of the mid back and the low waist. And then from here, use your abdominals to help coach your pelvis into that position a little bit more, sinking the low waist, and then same idea as toe taps here. We're going to just keep going, warming up those connections into the low abdominals, and we're also feeling into our deep hip flexors, our psoas. So let the knee on the floating leg come in close to your chest, and the opposite leg is going to tap down. And then we're going to take both knees into the chest and then lower them both down. Take the ball out from under you here, and we're going to transfer it to our upper back. So you can roll to a seated position, set it up behind your shoulder blades, and then lower back down. Once you're there, support your head in your hands, and we're going to spill back over the ball. So much like we did on Tuesday, we're going to just stretch out here for a moment and visualize the heart space from the center of your sternum all the way out to the tips of your elbows, down over the front of your ribs, up to your throat, kind of like a flower that has opened fully, like just in its full glory, really stretched out, open, letting all of the petals open. And then as you exhale, we're going to take our petals and draw them in. The elbows come forward, and then we're going to curl inwards and flex the spine, like a flower that closes up at night. And then inhale, open. All the petals open. And then exhale, gather all the petals in, kind of closing inward, right? Protecting and gathering in. Let that come through for a few more repetitions. This big expansive stretch. And then this gathering in. Big expansive and gathering in. One more time, open. Now what I'd like you to do is find that position, just moving away from the mat a little bit. Nod the chin and come a little bit away from the mat so you're not fully connected yet, but you're just not resting down. And then feel your petals open all throughout the center of your chest. Open, open, open. And then instead of closing them down, you're going to think about the outer petals, your elbows, your shoulders, kind of floating forward just a little bit to cup you from around this whole circumference. And then hovering your heart forward, that open heart up to the sky. You're going to sink the bottom ribs to float up. So the flower gets to stay open, the ribs sink down, and then we'll spill back, but without kind of splatting like we've been doing. We're going to sink the bottom ribs, nod the chin, and let the head rest in the hands as the whole flower is still open, glorious bloom, open with the ribs sinking. And that's our ab curl in one just interpretation, where we're really moving from the spine down around this low rib level, and we're keeping the chest open as opposed to practicing this pinchy tightness that often we have kind of going on in our body already. So letting it feel really spacious in the front of the chest. You can keep moving, but feeling the elbows kind of float forward just a little bit so that you have this kind of wrapped feeling from underneath. If my arms were a continuation of my shoulder blades, they kind of wrap around the rib cage, but keep this wide arc, and the elbows do that as well. And then we're going to take the next one up and hold and start to add in some choreography. So you're going to stay here, breathe, and on the exhale, try to sink those bottom ribs a little deeper, and then float your right knee and float your left. If you find right away that your back jumps into the effort, keep one foot on the mat and just alternate. We're going to do our toe taps here. So you're going to scoop the belly and toe tap and bring that toe back up, or a set of toes, and then keep going, alternating sides. As your toes move down, can your flower heart open, but the ribs become really heavy. As the toes lower, the ribs need to become even more weighted downward. And in fact, it would be best if the ribs really initiate, ribs down, and then we have the power to move that leg away from center. Now you're going to go into a rotation towards your high knee. Keep going, alternating sides, letting that torso of yours get really turned on, really warmed up from side to side, crossing the front. And we'll go last one. Let your feet find the mat first, and then stretch your heart open over the ball. This time you get to splat, letting the full stretch happen across the front of the chest. Okay, and then we're going to curl back up with the upper body. We're going to bring the knees into our chest, and we're going to hold on to them for a moment. We're going to go into some of that choreography from Joseph himself, the 5. So you're going to take your right leg straight up to the sky, move both hands over to the left knee, and then lower the right leg down just as far as you can, keeping the low ribs heavy. If the leg keeps going so far that your ribs come up off of the mat, you've gone too far. So sense into that, and then pause, breathe in, and on the exhale, we're going to switch the legs. And as you exhale, sink the ribs more, keeping the chest open, that flower blooming, ribs heavy, and keep going. One more each side. Bring the knees in, and then hands behind the head, land the feet down, rest the head and shoulders back. And then let's take one more of those exercises to play. You're going to bring your head and heart along as your ribs sink down. Float one leg and then the other, and we'll take your left leg straight up to the sky. Take your hands to the back of that thigh and then stretch your right leg up to the sky and start to lower it down again. Where you find the ribs starting to want to float off, that's where you want to stop, just above there. Your hands could come a little higher up your left leg. We're going to breathe in, exhale, switch. Ribs are heavy. You can do this with head support as opposed to holding onto the leg if that serves your neck better. Makes it harder work down lower in the abdomen, and then bring the legs back up, bend the knees and lower down and rest. Woo-wee. And then we'll just stay for a moment, stretching out the upper abdominal wall as we're just quite engaged there. And then let's float the ribs just a little bit off of the mat, the head just a little bit off of the mat, not the chin. Feel the bottom ribs get heavy, but we haven't rounded the spine yet. And now we're going to add a little side bend, drawing your right elbow towards your right hip, stretching those left obliques, and then come center and side bend to the left, drawing your left elbow towards your left hip, opening up those right obliques. We'll do that 2 more times each side. Side bend, right, center, side bend left, center, 1 more each side. And last one, and then come center, stretch back, and then we'll roll off to the side of the ball. Now we're going to take the ball and place it under the pelvis again, this time right under the sacrum again. So up, the pelvis fully elevated on the ball, but it's not under your low back, okay? And then from here, we're going to take the knees into the chest. Let the lower back sink to the mat. Your ribs are able to fall in as well. And then we're going to slide the legs both together up to the sky. And as you exhale, you're going to start to lower the legs, keeping the pelvis tilted towards 12 o'clock. And then inhale the legs back in. And exhale, and notice how far you can go without arching your back or feeling the ribs lift off of the mat. So I'm feeling a challenge about there, which is a good place to be, but it's not moving a whole lot, and it's still a good challenge. But I'm going to bend the knees, land the feet down, and now I'm going to move the ball a little bit further out, again under just the tailbone, so my low back can come to the mat. So we've got that little wedge under the sacrum again, and you're going to stretch the legs again up to the sky, keeping the bottom ribs heavy, and now start to lower the legs down and see if you can feel that difference. Ribs remaining heavy, low back staying in contact. Legs are going to go a bit lower, and you're going to get closer into this line where the whole body activates from armpits down to your ankles and inner thighs, supporting your legs as they lower. One more time, pause at the top, bring your hands to the back of the head. Take a nice deep breath in on the exhale, flutter your flower petals a little bit away from the mat, sink the bottom ribs curling up, and then exhale, begin again. Your ab curl might not feel very high, but it's supporting your legs going maybe a little bit lower. And then from the low position, hold, pull your right knee in towards your chest, rotate towards your right knee, and then switch. And switch. Let your ab curl be a little lower. Steer from your low abdominals, drawing your knees into your chest on one side and then the other. Feel the rib cage swivel around your center. And then bring it to center, lower everything down, and land your feet home. Take your hips off of the ball. And let's stretch out long, reach the legs long, flex the feet, reach your arms overhead. Stretch out through all angles, through all limbs. And then walk your feet in, gather your arms in, hold your knees in close. Let's take your hands to the inside of your ankles or calves or feet and find your happy baby stretch, perhaps rocking side to side. And then let's cross the left ankle over the right knee and draw your right thigh into your chest. And then switching sides as you're ready. Threading your hands around the back of that left thigh, drawing that leg in close as your right knee spins away. And then we're going to come onto our side. Let's turn onto the right side first. As you set up, your bottom arm can support your head. Your bottom leg can come forward to act as a little kickstand. Your top leg is going to stretch out nice and long with the foot flexed. Reach through the heel and lower and lift the leg. Reaching out. Imagine somebody, me perhaps, is there holding onto your ankle and dragging your leg out from the socket. Just not trying to actually separate it, but just create a little bit of space for a jammed up feeling, just creating a little bit of space. Feel your low abdominals kick in as you find that space. And then you'll hold the leg out there at about hip height and start to create little circles with the heel. And then reverse your direction. And then keep the leg hovering, and we're going to kick the foot forward with a flexed foot. And then point the toes and stretch the leg back. Kick, flex, point, stretch back. We're going to add in the motion of the top arm. As the leg goes back, reach your top arm forward. As the leg comes forward, your top arm stretches back. Allow that to come with a feel-good sort of swing to the limb. We're going to unleash a little bit of movement in the spine. So as your leg goes back, it's okay for your heart to rotate down. And then as your leg comes forward, your shoulder might draw your heart towards the ceiling a little bit, allowing this sort of exaggerated version of walking to happen in the top side of our body. One more time. And then land. Let's take your toes turned out, heels together, and take that top leg on a big circle that traces the boundaries of that hip. However much range of motion we have, we're walking that edge, feeling that circumference, but it's really probably not fully circular. And then complete the circle you're on, pause at the bottom, reverse your direction. Enjoy exploring the little fine edges of your range of motion, working into all those layers of connections around that joint. One more time, and then we'll pause there and move to our tummy. As you find your way to the tummy, you're going to fold your hands under your forehead, reach back, find your ankle on that left side, and give your quads a stretch. Pressing your hips into the mat, stretch your left knee down the line of the right leg, keeping them in close, keeping your heel close into your glutes for now. If you feel this in your low back, you might pad your hips, put a pillow under your pelvis. It'll really help. Good. I wonder if you guys can hear the rain. It's quite loud right now. And then we're going to stretch that leg long and release. We'll come back to the right side. You can just keep rolling over to make your way to your second side. I'm going to do a little kitty cat crawl. So we're going to stretch out. Top arm as our pillow. Bottom arm as our pillow, bottom leg out in front for stability. You're going to float the top leg away from center, flex through the foot. Feel the ribs here. It's hard to sometimes perceive on your sideline, but they often will kind of rock and spill forward in this position. So you're going to draw them back and keep that connection. It's just all of this corset support that holds them there. as you reach out through the heel. Again, imagine me there to traction your leg, giving it a little bit more space, giving your abdominals a little deeper cue to engage. And then circle the heel, circling from the joint, right? Where your thigh bone meets your pelvis in this lovely ball and socket joint. And then reverse your direction. Notice what's different in your two sides. And then go ahead and pause. We're gonna sweep the foot forward with a flexed foot, point and drag the leg back. Flex to the front, point to the back. Adding the top arm as the leg goes back, it swings forward and back. And again, unleash a little bit of movement in your spine now as your arm stretches forward. Let it draw your heart towards the ground. As it swings back, let it draw your heart towards the ceiling. And enjoy this full momentum and movement through your whole top side. And then we'll bring it all back to the start. Heels together, toes apart. And we're gonna circle that top leg forward and around and back. Feeling into all the little nooks and crannies of movement that we have possible in that right hip. One more. And then reverse. And we're taking that same journey, but it might feel different on the way from back to front. Slow and curious. We'll go one more time. And then bring the legs together. We'll lower onto our tummy once again and grab that right ankle for our quad stretch. So we've got our hips heavy, our shoulders rolled open, and then let the ribs and the pelvis stay connected in the front. Something you've been practicing all morning, giving your abdominals the center stage. Now we've got the abdominals at work backing up our quad stretch, keeping our ribs and pelvis connected to each other in a purposeful way while we stretch the thigh. Keep breathing, keep the thighs close in together, knee reaching down the body line, again as though you were getting a little bit of space in the joint. And then we'll gently ease out of the stretch. Stay here a moment. We're gonna take the hands both under the forehead. Take your toes a little bit out from center, tucked under, and rock your hips side to side. So your heels will go side to side, your thighs and your hips. And then land in the center, toes turned out, heels turned in, and you're gonna press your hips down into the mat and flex the front of the body so your ribs and your pelvis pull together and float the thighs from there. So you're not allowing any back bend here. And then from there, you're gonna squeeze the heels together. See if you can keep feeling the front of the ribs pull towards the pelvis, pelvis pull up towards the ribs in the front as your heels squeeze in. And then pause there, bend the knees. Knees are wide, heels are together, pelvis still heavy. You're going to squeeze the heels and press them towards the sky as you press your hips more deeply into the mat. Again, this is an exercise that you might value a cushion under your hips, couch cushion or a pillow, just to elevate the hips a little bit. Feel the ribs pull towards the pelvis in the front. And last 3 and 2 and 1. And then lengthen the legs, lower down and rest, maybe rocking your hips side to side. Now we're going to take our arms back and hover the forehead. Hover the shoulders off of the mat, reach the arms back so they go a little bit beyond the body towards the ceiling, and then reach your collarbones wide as your heart stretches forward. From there, feel into your abdominals, ribs and pelvis in the front pulling together to lift your thighs. Breathe in here. On the exhale, press your arms towards the ceiling. So we're not coming up very high with the upper body. We're trying to keep the ribs and pelvis connected in the front. and reaching the palms to the ceiling, working the back of the arms, again, those triceps. And 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Lower down. Take your hands under your shoulders, press up into an all fours position. Walk yourself forward towards the front of your mat. As you find your way there, push down into the mat. In fact, we have it here. Let's grab our Theraband and use it. I want to tie it all together anyways, so you might as well have it handy. So you're going to lasso those bottom ribs and then find your way again to this position, straight arms, and then ribs come back and bring us to the mat. Hands connecting down, palms securing the mat or the Theraband to the mat, and then feel that mutual opposite connection of the arms pushing into the earth, the ribs lifting away from the earth to feel that shoulder stability. From there, you're going to step back into a plank position. One foot and then the other. You can do this on your knees if you prefer. Reaching the ribs up and back, pushing down into the earth. Hold here. Take your right leg, float the toes, pull your right knee towards your right elbow, reach it back. Right knee towards left elbow, reach it back. Keep the ribs lifted. Right knee towards your nose, lift the ribs even more. Stretch leg back, land it down. Left leg floats. Left knee to left elbow, reach it back. Left knee to right elbow, reach it back. Knee to nose, lift those ribs more. Stretch it back, lower the knees down. Take a rest. You can let the Theraband go and bow forward over your knees and thighs. Truly in the rest mode of child's pose. And then let's slide the hands in underneath us, roll all the way up. And we're going to come once more, just once more, to this position with a Theraband under our low ribs. I recommend the Gertie Ball between your knees or something there if you have it. And if your knees tend to be sensitive, we want to pad them a little extra. We're going to do a thigh stretch. So you're going to draw your shoulders down, lift up on the front of the body as though the front of your spine could be lifted and the back of your body can draw down. And then from there, breathe into those back ribs. Exhale, reach the arms long. From here, we're going to squeeze the ball, tilt from the knees to lean back into a thigh stretch. Keep your ribs moving back into the band. Inhale, come back up. Squeeze the ball. You don't have to move far. It could just be a couple inches. The more you move, the more you need to be really wary of those ribs, keeping them back. And then coming back up. And again, thigh stretch. So your quads are stretching and working. Your abdominals are definitely working. Your shoulders are active. We're going to do that again. This time we're going to add a twist. Squeeze the ball, tilt back, reach the right arm back. Inhale, come forward. Tilt, open to the left, and forward and up. Again, squeeze the ball, ribs come back, opening right, and center and up. Squeeze the ball, open left, and center and up. One more time each side. Ribs coming back, we twist, and center, last one, and center. Okay, take the band, set it down here, take the ball, set it aside too, place your hands under your shoulders and then just step them a little bit further out in front of you. Draw the shoulders down away from the ears, reach your toes under, and then reach your hips up and back. Find your downward dog. As you do so, bend the knees fully so that your pelvis is allowed to go from any kind of tuck into this deep tilt forward over the thighs. That crease in the front of your hips gets really deep. And then from there, see if your rib cage has kind of glided through the arms toward your thighs. Pull the bottom ribs back so you arrive in this long line of suspension from your hips to your hands. And then from there, start to straighten the legs, keeping the bottom ribs connected back. Now you've found this really potent position of balance. 3 sides, 3 corners. And then we're going to add in a little bit of movement through the ankles, bending one knee and then the other, stretching the calves along with the hamstrings and feet. And then let's take both legs long. Take the right foot up and back, stretch it towards the ceiling, and just give yourself that extra stretch into the left calf. Can your heart stay centered between your arms? And then lower the toes back down. Stretch the left leg up, squeeze the buns on that left hip to lift that leg, lift your abdominals, lift your ribs, and then lower it back down. And then the right foot's going to come up to the sky, and we're going to bring the knee towards the nose and step the foot between the hands. And as you do that, you might need a couple of steps to get there. That's completely allowed. From here, we're going to take the Theraband, which hopefully you can reach. If not, I apologize for not setting you up better. I'm going to hold it in both hands and then come on up to a high lunge. You can adjust the distance between your feet. We're going to take the Theraband out in front of us, stretch the arms up and overhead and around and back. And then from here, the band's going to come forward. We're going to tilt forward, creating a long line from our head to our back heel. Find the thigh or the shin on the front leg and go into these arm pulls, tricep pulls back. Keep going, reach through that back heel, squeeze your buns on the left leg, pull the shoulders back. Keep the ribs from sliding forward. Last 2, last 1, and then come all the way up. Reach your arms up and around and back. Bring the arms forward. We'll bring the hands down to the mat. Let's leave the band across the mat in the front. Step your right foot back to downward dog. So we've come full circle back to our second side. So we'll take our left leg up to the sky, and then you're going to pull knee to nose and step that foot forward between the hands. Make adjustments so you feel secure and balanced. Feel as though your left hip is dragging back and your right hip is dragging forward. You'll find your band and come all the way up. As you arrive in that most upright position, can you bring your ribs back over your pelvis, keeping the ribs back as you circle the arms around and behind you, and then around into the front. Bring the Theraband across the front of your left knee or shin as you tilt forward with the upper body. Feel the bottom ribs lift away from the thigh, keeping those abdominals fully engaged. Right hip dragging forward, left hip dragging back, and we pull back on the arms. Shoulders moving back. Feeling like you're in that rocket position, lying on your tummy, reaching the legs back, reaching the heart forward, but keeping the ribs connected to your pelvis. And last 3, and 2, and 1, and then reach the arms up and around and back. Ribs stay back. Last 1 to the front. And then we'll bring the hands and band to the mat. Step your left foot back to downward dog. Stay there. Get comfy and stretch, and then go into your running in place again, this time letting your hips go into a little bit more of a swivel tilt as you hold your upper body fairly stable. And then we'll walk our feet towards our hands, making our way into a forward bend. Letting your knees be soft and your head heavy. Give your head a little shake to either side. Feel the traction between your head and your sacrum, creating space all along the back of the body. And then we'll soften the knees and start to roll up, curling the tail under, lifting the ribs, lifting the abdominals, and arriving up tall. Roll the shoulders around and back. And then we'll take our arms up and overhead and feel the feet root down into the earth. Push the air down to grow a little bit taller. And again, inhale up. Exhale, stretch wide and back down, feeling the shoulders just melt down over your torso like a heavy cloak. One more time, inhale up, palms together at the top. Press your palms into one another as you hover your heart up to meet your hands. And we'll finish there. Thank you again for joining me. I hope that you feel amazing, and I hope you are going to come back for more Pilates. If you haven't already, subscribe to my channel. You can do so here, and you can also follow me on Instagram at arwenbrooke_Pilates, and you can find me at my website as well, arwenbrooke.com, and you'll find news there of other events, including workshops and retreats and other such fun. I hope to see you soon, and have a great day.